Listen, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So I will be very brief, because of the time constraint. So in my presentation, I'm going to, of course, briefly introduce you the type of the support that bank is providing to different countries as part of the different initiatives that we manage to support countries with getting prepared for international carbon markets. Of course, here um, it's not that bank is right now helping directly countries to prepare a report itself, but how we are helping countries to have the infrastructure that is needed basically to collect all the information. It was fascinating to hear the discussion. Thanks Juan Pedro also for raising those issues. In fact, that's exactly what actually bank is approaching when it comes to helping countries to prepare for meeting different requirements. Not just on reporting. Reporting is just a part of that, obviously, but to ensure that they collect all the information that is needed in a required format and then in required quality. And of course, considering the different things that we already heard, or seen in the negotiation text, and also some good practices that we observed, for example, under the CDM era and also under other domestic creating markets, etc. So that's how actually that we are approaching to help countries having the infrastructure that is needed and the institutional arrangement that should be put in place to manage this entire process, and of course the capacity building that is needed in order for them to manage this. Go to next slide, please. This is of course just to I think it's already been covered by Perumal and others. This is of course another way of reflecting how this whole architecture would look like. Consisting of different registries, and then what the what did these different systems are going to play a role, and then the connections between those things, and then what the secretariat role, and then what the parties need to do, etc. So this is of course obviously the basis for us also to look into how the infrastructure that we help building or developing at the national level, where it is needed and then required, it should communicate with different things that will be of course eventually be implemented at the a global level to facilitate this entire data transfer and then communication, and then of course publishing the reports for the global stakeholders, and what each of these countries is doing when it comes to the Article 6 related transactions. Next slide. I mean, this is of course the starting point for us. I mean, it's like no, and this is very obvious for all the countries that are participating in this call, that and at least to facilitate the participation in the market, and then to collect all the needed information. One, to track how they are doing, their NDCs, and of course also track the emission reductions, and then of course the all the things that needs to happen when it comes to the cooperative approaches, and of course and reporting requirements, but also to track the climate finance flows into the country. So we, as from the bank side, we of course help countries on especially these three things that I listed here, starting with GHG inventories. I mean, how do actually countries can improve the existing GHG inventories that they have been doing for decades, especially in the context of like leakages to the NDC accounting, and then how the transfers that happen as part of this Article 6 should be reflected into their inventories, and what the challenges that they face both with the methodologies, time lag, and of course like the visibility of certain emissions within the inventory, because that's very important in the context of avoiding overselling risks, etc. And then of course the data management system, or we call it as MRV system, national MRV system, where that helps to facilitate capturing or calculating the emission reductions in the climate finance flows, and under which of course again it captures the different mitigation projects at the sector level, and then of course link that to to the their NDC, whether it is part of the unconditional target or conditional target, and then and of course countries can also decide accordingly which of those projects they plan to participate in the market, and if there is a positive list to kind of thing that's country already developed, the linking all of them. Now, that whole thing actually happened as part of this data management system. And then of course the registry of where you can we know very well that mostly it has a two components, a register and then the transaction registry. For some countries may just wish to have just a register where they wanted to just to track how many emissions got issued by different standards out there, and then how many of course they need to do the corresponding adjustments, etc. But of course some countries also well advanced in terms of they also wanted to support the transaction of the carbon credits and using the of course their own national standards and etc. So accordingly, I mean, I'm sure many of you are aware of, and because we also presented this one in other fora, that the bank has developed both MRB and registry open source systems that any country can make use of it, and then of course we also provided training and capacity building. But of course it's not to say that one of these both systems are 100% actually fit for purpose to meet all the requirements. So it's also we are learning by doing, of course, implementing that at the country level, and then piloting with some projects, and then see where the gaps are, and then how do we actually improve those systems, etc. And as part of that one, of course, we have established digital for climate working group, under which of course we work along with the UNDP, and then of course UNFCCC, EBRD, European Space Agency, etc., that are already working on different components of this ecosystem, and then we wanted to ensure that we are all well coordinated, and then each of the systems talk to each other, and then countries have a more flexibility when it comes to which of these components are more relevant, so that they can have a those that kind of a modules as needed. Next slide. So this is again just to, because we also made some effort to compile, and then what the different information is required as part of the initial report, and then yearly information, and then BTRs, and etc. And then how that information that is needed for for these different reports, and then what is the supporting infrastructure that could actually support getting this information that is needed for countries to to submit these things. And accordingly those countries make a decision on what is the kind of infrastructure that they need, looking into the, of course, obviously the resource needs, and then the other decisions that that countries might need to be made. But of course when it comes to the bank support, I mean, it's especially under the PMI and our climate first program, so we are of course approaching this as holistically and also in a customizable way that satisfies to the country's requirements and circumstances of the particular country, and accordingly offer different levels of the support that is needed. Next slide. This is again, of course, just to show how actually this entire ecosystem would look like. Here this national MRV system, and then there is a registries, and then we also help countries to connect these registries with the climate action data trust, so that all the connected registries information will be made available, and then that could be utilized for providing different services. But of course we are also where it is feasible and then makes sense, we are also of course working with different partners on the digital MRV, which is on the left hand side, to see how some project level information can be captured and on a real-time basis, and then send it to the national MRV system, in which these emission reduction calculations will happen in a real-time basis, and also that can facilitate real-time verification and hence issuance of the process. That is of course the goal towards which we are working in a couple of countries, and the idea is also to see whether through this process we can establish some kind of a standard protocol, so that can be of course utilized by any other countries or any others that wanted to replicate these digital MRV approaches to facilitate the faster the process under the Article 6, and also, of course, to reduce the transaction costs. And one more thing we also did is that these systems also come with some standard reports that, of course, we are aware of, that should be, of course, needed for countries to have, and then mainly in the context of the UNFCCC reporting requirements. And now in Sharm el-Sheikh, now we have the formats for the senior state reporting, etc. So now we are working basically to integrate that also into these systems, so that countries can generate these reports as needed. Of course, like recognizing that there could be still some challenges in terms of capturing all the data that is needed, for that report within these systems, and some data might be, of course, outside these systems that countries still need to be collected. So yeah, hopefully we will have more experience and then lessons learned as we help many countries to have these systems, and then use them for generating some reports. Next slide. I think this is just to tell that, like, how crowded also the place, how innovation is happening, especially with respect to the data that that market needs, basically, not just from the country level, but also using the some various data platforms. There are trading platforms, and then there are several marketplaces that all actually rely on this country level information, and then make use of it actually to make some sense out of it in a meaningful manner. So of course, this is getting complex. The number of players are increasing every day, and then it could, of course, managing this one, it might actually become also a challenging task moving forward, but it's a space to for all of us to watch out for. Next slide. So this is, of course, my final slide, wherein, of course, like as I said, so we are helping different countries under the Partnership for Market Implementation Facility. 17 countries are part of that thing. So the majority of the support is also goes to supporting these countries with the domestic carbon pricing, but the sizable support for these countries also on the Article 6, where, of course, we talk about many aspects, including gap assessment, policy framework, infrastructure, and piloting and capacity building, so that we have, of course, hopefully a comprehensive understanding and the challenges actually within these countries when it comes to meeting many of these requirements. I'll stop here, and then happy to answer any question that you may have. Over to you. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the rich presentation. So due to the time constraint, I would like to invite second presenter. And the second presenter is my colleague, Tomohiko Hattori from IGS. And over to you.
Thank you very much. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I am Tomohiko from IGS, and I would like to share our capacity building initiative on Article 6.2 reporting. It is called Mutual Learning Program for Enhanced Transparency. We call it MLP. And it's a specific capacity building on reporting under Article 6.2. And the purpose of this initiative is to understand how to apply the reporting guidance under Article 6 and Article 13. So we have two kind of streams working on reporting on Article 6, and as well as another second stream working on reporting of tracking progress towards implementation of the NDC and under the Article 13. And so I will explain, but we try to do a practical reporting exercise, and so that we can explore how we can improve the reporting for the next reporting. And then also we try to invite new countries and expand, and so that we can build a network of reporting on Article 6 and 13. And so in terms of the length of the program, it's about half a year, 7 months online program, and we meet 3 times during that time period with 2 reporting exercises in between the meetings. And so we have kind of a concrete output, which is a draft of reporting for the Article 6 and 13 respectively. And so far, under this Article 6 stream, we have worked with some JSM countries, Thailand, Chile, Indonesia, Mongolia, and Bangladesh. And this is the overview of this MLP. So we contact countries, candidate countries, to invite to seek their interest in participation. And so we have kickoff meeting to introduce this MLP, as well as explain the schedule and the first exercise proposal. Then we work on the first exercise, which is to develop the actual practical reporting using the JSM as an example. And then we exchange this draft reports and ask questions each other among the pairs. Then we meet for the second time to present the draft report, then answer the questions that has been asked prior to the meeting, and then we have follow-up discussion. And then we work on the second exercise that's either refinement of the draft, the first draft, and based on the discussion during the main meeting, and provide written answers to questions asked. And also we have done kind of a tailor-made exercise on a specific topic, like corresponding adjustment, upon a request from the participating countries. Then, and in the third meeting, we repeat what we did with the first exercise, and also we have like follow-up discussion and overall reflection of the program. So this is, as you can see, this is like a template of initial report draft that we developed. So it's based on using the agreed template, agreed outlines for initial report, and we also use the list of illustrative elements of information that was provided by the UNFCCC Secretariat. And now I learned that there is a kind of official initial report template from the UNFCCC Secretariat, so I think we can use that in the future MLP. Yeah, and we also last year we used the draft agreed electronic format for our template, and so as we have some JSM credits already issued, and in the JSM website we can see those information, and based on that we could do this exercise with the assumption that they are ITOMOS already, although they are not yet. And these are some of the main discussion points. So since we started this MLP since 2020, even before the Glasgow agreement, so we were working based on the text from Madrid, draft guidance on Article 6.2. So we studied from what are the ITOMOS under the JSM, so understanding terminology for the reporting and in the context of the JSM. And also recently, in terms of draft AEF, we exchanged views, like what could be the underlying unit block ID, new terminologies in the draft AEF. And also we discussed how the JSM contributes to the NDC and long-term low emission development strategies. And like maybe the new technologies, advanced technologies introduced could be contributing to these NDC and etc. Also, we try to share as much as possible the information on institutional arrangements for ITMOS authorization. So as we heard, Japan has the authorization body already, so we shared that, and also we heard from the participating countries the status of their country in terms of setting up the institutional arrangements. And then we had a discussion on corresponding adjustment. So we started with the understanding of the concept in 2020, and as IGS, we were also learning from countries on this concept, and we also did some exercise on the different method of corresponding adjustment and what happens if two countries apply different corresponding adjustment method and so on. And also the arrangements for preparing initial reports. So some countries have, the reporting ministry and JCM implementing ministry are different, and they need some coordination for the reporting. And also we shared maybe JCM rules need to be elaborated based on in accordance with the Article 6. So we heard from Ministry of Environment that now the rules are being updated. And we did some surveys to the participants last year in 2022. So the largest challenges we had that the understanding of the guidance itself is challenging, and also the internal coordination for the reporting of information and collecting necessary information. And in terms of the effective way to understand this guidance, we had the developing actual reports and also reviewing other countries' reports and discussion based on the reports. These are pretty much what we did, but I think the participants found these exercises as a useful way to understand the guidance. And in terms of institutional arrangements for reporting, some countries are under discussion, and there were countries that had not started the discussion at the time of MLP. And yeah, the most challenging part in participation requirements, which we heard from the UNFCCC Secretariat. So yeah, some countries said the domestic arrangements for ITMOS authorization is the most challenging part. And some countries said a registry system to track ITMOS is challenging. And yeah, we also had the providing the most recent JG inventories is challenging, especially for the BTR, for example, party submits BTR in 2024, then the JG inventories shall cover information up to 2022. That might be a challenging for some countries. Even with the flexibility, it has to be up to 2021. And on domestic arrangements for ITMO authorization, yeah, also some countries are discussing, and the others are not yet discussing. Yeah, and for challenges for establishing domestic arrangements for ITMO authorization, again, the lack of understanding of Article 6 in relevant ministries was a challenge, and of course the relevant policies, rules take time. And this is another survey to all the JCM partner countries. So the number is 26, and so on the question of or challenge in meeting the participation requirement on Article 6. Many numbers were regarding ITMOS authorization as well as tracking of ITMOS. And for the demand on capacity building priority, the corresponding adjustment, initial report, and regular information, and King of ITMOS marked the high numbers, high demand from the countries. This is my last slide. So again, as lessons learned, we found the guidance, understanding of the guidance itself might be challenging for some countries, including reporting requirements and how to use the draft agreed electronic format. Of course, it is to be finalized, and believe there will be forum to exchange views and to learn how to use the AEF. And yeah, we had like practical exercise on drafting reports. It was helpful to understand the guidance, because in order to draft reporting, you need to go through the guidance and understand them. Yeah, and the support demand on domestic arrangements on ITMOS authorization and the developing registry system for tracking ITMOS were necessary for some countries, and capacity building on kind of internal coordination between ministries for domestic arrangements was also necessary. And finally, this is kind of logistical issue, but this capacity building, we found the flexibility is important to meet the needs of the countries because they're busy, and this capacity building is in addition to their daily work. So the schedule should be flexible, and of course the topics should be of participating countries' interest, and we try to have less official discussion, so that each participant can express their opinion. So thank you very much for your attention, and back to Chair.
Thank you very much, Hattori-san, for sharing the practical experience. So now I'd like to invite the final presenter, Susan Conrad, UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center. However, she's unable to join us today, so please let us play the video of her presentation, which was made on 19th.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. A pleasure to be here. My name is Susanne Conrad. I'm a project officer here at the UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center with a background primarily in transparency. And in my presentation, I will tell you a bit what we here at the UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center do to assist countries in getting ready for reporting on Article 6. Next slide. Just a bit of background on the UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center for those that don't know us. The center has existed for over 30 years, also has changed the names a couple of times. We are now fully integrated into UNEP and also help deliver their strategy and their goals. We support developing countries in many different areas, ranging from energy efficiency, policy implementation, NDC implementation, mitigation analysis, transport. And now recently we are also engaging in Article 6 readiness, also building on a kind of vast experience on the former CDM times, where we also had the TDM pipelines and other projects, and also have a big portfolio of different transparency projects. So yeah, you can see the three different focus areas here: policy, transparency, implementation, which of course have a strong interlinkages between those areas. Yeah, next slide. So to move to the support that we provide on reporting on Article 6. So we have kind of two different entry points. We have a lot of projects and programs supporting countries in getting ready for Article 13, so on transparency, but we also have a number of projects on Article 6, and they're of course closely interlinked. Countries have to put in place, as we also heard from the UNFRPC presentation, countries have to put in place the rigorous transparency systems, MRV systems, as kind of precondition to engage and account for cooperative approaches. And importantly, countries also have to report on their cooperative approaches in their biannual transparency reports in addition to the initial reports. So there are a lot of linkages, and here at the UNEP CCC we have two major programs that I would like to highlight to you today. The first program on Article 6 is the Supporting Preparedness for Article 6 Cooperation program, or also short SPARC, called SPARC program. And the second program is the Capacity Building Initiative for Transparency Global Support Program, called CBGSP. I apologize for all the acronyms, but these are the two kind of big programs that I would like to highlight to you today, and that have relevance for reporting on Article 6. So the next slide. So a bit about the SPARC project, to provide you some background. It's a 5-year program funded by the International Climate Initiative, ICI, and with a budget of 20 million, not USD, but euros. And it's implemented by 5 partners in 4 countries under the leadership of 3GI. And the objective is basically to support the 4 developing countries that you also see here, Colombia, Pakistan, Thailand, and Zambia, in building capacity to use Article 6 cooperative approaches and to engage the private sector in NDC implementation and ambition raising. So it's really about Article 6 readiness. So if you go to the next slide, here you see the kind of the different elements, project elements that are covered in the projects. It's quite a comprehensive project covering both kind of in-country national activities with the country readiness support, but also has 2 global activities with a community of practice of Article 6 implementing countries that has been launched already and is now in place. And the idea is basically to foster knowledge sharing between countries. And another major component is the Article 6 toolbox, where handbooks and implementation guides will be developed. Yes, on the next slide, when zooming in on the kind of more national activities, it's a lot of activities to be covered in this readiness support. But just to highlight, on top you see that there's also advice on MRV registry and reporting. So this is kind of the more relevant activity that relates to reporting on Article 6. Yes, on the next slide, just provides a quick overview of the Article 6 toolbox that is to be developed. There's no specific guide on the reporting on Article 6, but of course it's integrated in some of the guides, like such as the host country governance framework. So it will be kind of indirectly covered in these guides, which are to be developed throughout the project. So it's a 5-year project, and there's a sort of lessons learned coming out from the country implementation. But these are the initial ideas for the guides. Yes, so this was a quick overview of the SPARC project, which has some elements on the reporting of Article 6, but of course mainly related to readiness. Also just to highlight that I'm not directly involved in this project, but I am happy to relate any kind of specific detailed question back to my colleague Karen Olsen, who's in charge of this big SPARC project, and also other Article 6 activities that we have here in the center. Yes, if you go to the next slide. So the other project I wanted to highlight and I'm actually involved in is actually a big transparency project called the Capacity Building Initiative for Transparency Global Support Program, CBGSP. It's a global transparency project funded by the GEF, implemented by UNEP and executed by us. It's a 5-year project with a budget of roughly 9 million USD, and it's a merging and continuation of 2 previous GEF transparency projects, the CBIT Global Coordination Platform, which is also hosted by us, and the UNDP UNEP Global Support Program, which supported many countries in the submission of national communications in BOR. So it's really transparency project. And the main objective of this new CBGSP project is to support countries in the transition to the BTRs, and to the F in general, but also to help countries in the last submissions of the BORs. We hear that there are still countries submitting the last BORs before they move to the BTRs. And of course, the continued submission of national communications. And the idea is also to provide a one-stop shop for transparency through a global transparency website that we will be launching in June at the SBs. And a focus is also to mainstream gender considerations in transparency as one of another aspects of the project. If you go to the next slide. So this global project has many different support modalities, both for global, regional, and national activities. Kind of one of the main support modality that we have is that we have 10 regional transparency network, basically covering all developing countries around the world, and that are coordinated through regional transparency network coordinators in the regions basically. And 2 of the networks we coordinate closely with UNDP, another climate promise initiative that is a Francophone and Lusophone cluster. But this is kind of the main access points to the countries to have these transparency networks and the regional activities. We also provide direct support to countries based on their needs and prioritized areas, based on support requests that we get from countries on specific transparency activities, which could be training, which could be modeling for NDC, which could be filling of templates for the BTR. So it could be various activities related to transparency. We, of course, also provide in-country trainings activities, have regional and global workshops. We also review transparency reports before they are submitted to the UNFCCC. So we have been, I think, reviewing up to 20 reports, so national inventory reports, BORs, and Cs. That have been shared by countries to us, and we do like an initial review and kind of point out where things could be improved, just to avoid that there will be a lot of comments in the actual review process and the UNFCCC. So they're kind of streamlining the reporting and review process. There will be an updated gender toolkit for transparency, and we will also develop a number of knowledge products based on what comes out from the needs of countries. Yes, so it's a really needs-based project, and we try to be as flexible as possible to respond to countries' needs. On the right-hand side, you see the regional transparency networks, covering the different globes basically. On the next slide, Yes, just one slide about this one-stop shop for transparency, or the kind of the global transparency website that we are planning. So the idea is basically to have like one place to go to get all your transparency information, to get all the transparency reports from countries, to get all the information on transparency projects, knowledge products, events, news, everything related to transparency in the wider sense. And the idea is to really have it owned by all the different transparency stakeholders. So people from the different agencies from countries will have profiles and be able to edit and upload information. And it's really, to have one go-to place for transparency, because it's quite spread out right now across the different transparency support providers. And it's currently under development. We start the testing soon, and we'll probably also reach out to a few of you to help with testing. And the idea is to launch the platform at the SBs in Bonn. And some of the features that the platform will have will, of course, be country profiles, agency profiles, calendar for upcoming events, knowledge library. There will also be a dedicated space for the regional transparency networks with a dedicated forum, so where people from the countries, the experts from the countries, can engage in different discussions and really help to help knowledge sharing and foster this knowledge exchange. So this is upcoming, and I'm happy to share information once it's launched. And on the next slide, just to give you an update on where we are in the project. We have only started last year, and we've launched right now. We have launched 6 regional transparency networks, among other in Asia and in the Pacific, but also in Anglophone Africa, Francophone Africa, also in the Caribbean and LAC in Latin America. 2 networks, the Francophone and Lusophone cluster, are already in place with UNDP, and we are going to launch 2 more networks in the very near future. We also have nomination for thematic focal points in each of the countries. So we have focal points for NDC tracking, inventory, and the different ETF supporting areas basically, and we'll engage the experts in different activities based on the kind of the different thematic workshops that we will be holding. We've also conducted kind of comprehensive capacity needs assessment in each of the networks, where we get responses from most of the countries, and to basically identify needs, priorities, what are the biggest challenges in the countries, and several countries actually showed interest in support for Article 6 reporting. I'm just mentioning 2 here now. Lao PDR want to have like basic understanding of Article 6, and Malaysia want to have like specific support on other Article 6 reporting. And based on these capacity needs assessment, we developed work plans for this year to cater to these needs. We have chosen to not focus on Article 6 reporting this year because we saw that there's a lot of other kind of more pressing transparency needs in the regions, in the countries, kind of still basic understanding of inventories, the MPGs, NDC tracking. But we stand ready to support countries in this in the future after we kind of covered more kind of the basic areas. But we definitely see a need in country to get more support on Article 6. And we also, just to highlight, that we have like a support request template where countries can submit support requests for specific transparency activities, for specific transparency needs that they covered, that they want to have covered, and they can submit it to us, and we try to cover it as much as possible, either internally or also in collaboration with other transparency partners like ICAT, PADPA, and so we really stand ready to receive support requests from countries and respond to them in a timely manner. Yes. Next slide, please. Yes, so that was kind of the 2 major programs we have, but we also have other kind of Article 6 activities ongoing that are kind of have relevance for the reporting. We have kind of a development of carbon market transformational change tools under the Initiative for Climate Action Transparency, ICAT, which will cover some kind of reporting format for Article 6 and sustainable development and transformation change impacts. So this is ongoing, and where we also collaborate with other partners on for the development of this toolbox. And there's another kind of interesting project upcoming, the integrated assessment for Article 6. It's a EU-funded project. It has not started yet, but it will also cover kind of a toolbox of technical modules, and the technical modules will also cover the areas of MIB and transparency based on previous experience that we have on the ICAT project in Costa Rica, and their experience and with the CINAMEC, their kind of climate change information system. So these are ongoing and upcoming activities that we have here, lots of many different activities, but we try to kind of streamline across kind of the Article 6 and the Article 13 people here internally, because they're of course closely related. Yes, and the next slide, I think it's just the final slide. Yes, please reach out to us if you have any question on the kind of global transparency projects, but also on any other Article 6 programs that we have here internally, and we're happy to coordinate, collaborate, or help in any regard. Thank you so much. Back to you.